There's a couple of big tailwinds now, which lead me to think that there's a good chance Bitcoin could be at $1 million per coin, by 2030 or so.
And we have a market value in 2030 of 25 trillion.
There's a convergence now that's happening between AI and crypto.
Crypto's next big move has already started. Attention, crypto investors. Just like back here in April, you remember, people were not certain if markets were actually bullish. They were not certain if this was actually a dip worth buying. Today, it's so obvious this was a dip worth buying. Looking back to the past, it's so obvious on dips worth buying. Yet, if on any one of these dips, you would have been thinking clearly, had a forward-looking mindset, maybe even been a little bit of a crypto optimist, you would have bought this dip. You would have bought this dip so hard, you would have bought many dips. Subscribe to Altcoin Daily. It's time to start taking your crypto journey seriously. And for the record, obviously, with 2020 hindsight on anything, we would have dumped so much money in the market. The point is, we can't do that. Markets are forward-looking. I'm making this video today to say, I think we're here again. I think this is the calm before the storm. And I think for a variety of converging reasons, we're about to see one of crypto's biggest bull runs ever. And I'm not just saying that. This time is different. Nothing is guaranteed in life, of course. Anything can happen. Videos on this channel are never financial advice, just info and opinion. But we know things. We know Fed rate cuts are happening. We know crypto's next big catalyst in the short term. 95% of the US population has no idea a massive bipartisan crypto market structure bill is about to be passed. The founder of the largest exchange in the United States, Coinbase, says he's been talking to regulators on both sides. He's sure this is going to happen, and he says this will bring billions, if not trillions, into Bitcoin, Ethereum, quality altcoins. Says, I've never been more bullish. Listen.
The Genius Act, which passed recently, provided clear rules for crypto stablecoins. This was a historic piece of legislation, and the Trump administration did an incredible job pushing this forward. Of course, both President Trump himself, who said that he wants the United States to be the crypto capital of the world, and folks like, Senator Haggerty and David Sachs, and a number of people came together to pass that. There's now one more piece of legislation that, as you said, got bipartisan support in the House already and now is being debated in the Senate. And this is what we call market structure legislation, which just simply means it's covering all of the non-stablecoin crypto assets, things like Bitcoin and Ethereum. And it's resolving some of these outstanding issues from the last administration that got weaponized by people like Gary Gensler trying to go after the crypto industry because it wasn't clear, were these a commodity, were they a security? So this legislation is making great progress. I've never been more bullish on the chances to get it passed into law. This freight train has left the station, and there's people on both sides of the aisle in the Senate that are eager to get this legislation put on the books. Now, this hasn't stopped the big bank lobby from coming in trying to throw a wrench into things. They actually want to go in and ban rewards on stablecoins, and that was already settled in the prior Genius Act that I just mentioned. But I'm not too worried about it. The senators we spoke to aren't really going to entertain reopening that issue, and so hopefully this legislation gets passed into law very soon.
Well, listen, this is one of the rare topics that Congress comes together on.
Artificial intelligence and the growth boom will be another catalyst that sends Bitcoin, Ethereum, and crypto higher. AI needs crypto to communicate fairly. As AI grows, it will boost crypto's growth. AI needs blockchain for all kinds of things. And this isn't according to me. This is according to Dan Ives, Wall Street tech investing expert. Many people know him from his great AI stock calls and overall his forward-thinking business thesis on AI. So it's refreshing to hear him on Pump's podcast speak so positively about Bitcoin, Ethereum, and crypto, and hear his thesis on crypto and AI converging. Listen, this makes me bullish.
There's a convergence now that's happening between AI and crypto.
Now, what do you think about other disruptive technologies like Bitcoin or anything else?
Yeah, I mean, like huge, huge supporter of Bitcoin, crypto. Just was down in DC with Sauer and Tom Lee and a number of other great folks really trying to focus on the Bitcoin reserve and in terms of some of the legislation. Look, I believe it's another asset class, as well as there's a convergence now that's happening between AI and crypto. So what's starting to happen when you look at blockchain, the use cases for that are being massively underestimated. Mm-hmm. So as a software tech analyst, I view it from two ways. One, there's Bitcoin in terms of just the, you know, the actual and just the value, but then there's the use cases that are starting to play out across tech. And I think that's why this is a new age for crypto. It's a new age for AI. And also there's a convergence, like, you know, in terms of my latest venture that I've done with ACO, because I think there's an intersection right now of AI and crypto.
And then to go even further, because truly, we can't really predict what happens in the short term, and anything could happen in the short term. But looking long term, in my opinion, there's one direction this thing is going. In Brian Armstrong's opinion, there's one direction this thing is going. We know that there are many reasons to believe that Bitcoin hits $1 million someday. But Brian Armstrong says maybe in the next 5 years, maybe by 2030. Here, the Coinbase CEO lists every reason why 1 million Bitcoin by 2030 is likely.
There's a couple of big tailwinds now, which lead me to think that there's a good chance Bitcoin could be at $1 million per coin, you know, by 2030 or so. And that's the relationship between interest rates and stocks. You know, it can always be complex. Like for a long time, people thought these things were positively correlated, and now I think over time people are starting to think of Bitcoin almost like gold or something. It's something people might flee to in times of uncertainty. So it's a hybrid between those two things. But I try not to get too caught up in the short-term trends. What I try to do is look at the long-term trends. And there's a couple of big tailwinds now, which lead me to think that there's a good chance Bitcoin could be at $1 million per coin, you know, by 2030 or so. And that's partly it's the regulatory clarity that's emerging. I mentioned the Genius Act, and now with market structure legislation, hopefully getting close, that could be a major moment. We also saw the United States of America now has a strategic Bitcoin reserve. So if the United States government is going to begin holding Bitcoin, I think that's going to be a massive driver of demand, and the rest of the G20 countries will probably follow suit. And then the last thing I'd say is that we saw recently the launch of the Bitcoin ETFs by a number of different firms, and Coinbase is actually powering 80% of the custody for those that are out there. But we're seeing a ton of institutional money continue to flow into Bitcoin now that these ETFs are live. So there's a lot of positive tailwinds for Bitcoin, and I think that there's never going to be more than 21 million Bitcoin ever made in the world, and lots of pools of capital still haven't gotten access to it. So that tells me this thing has a long way to run.
You can make even more money trading crypto. This is an exchange I like. This is the best deal I've ever seen by any exchange. $100,000 in trading bonuses. Anybody can take advantage of this, but you must act quickly. This deal won't be around forever. $100K extra in trading bonuses. No KYC. Make sure you use our Bitunix exchange link below. Ethereum has a lot going on this cycle. Ethereum just broke another record. Layer 2 network processes 25 million transactions in a single day. This is a new all-time high, and if you add in Ethereum's L1, the ecosystem hit nearly 27 million daily transactions. They are bigger than some of the biggest payment networks in the world. They are still smaller than some of the very largest, so there's a lot of room for growth. This surprised me. Ark Invest has finally revealed their 2030 Ethereum prediction. It looks like it's around $200,000. He wouldn't give an exact number here, but he says we fully expect a 25 trillion market cap by 2030, which equals around $200,000. This is the director of research at Ark. I love how he doesn't just give the price. He explains his reasoning. Listen.
Ethereum is about 13% of the total market cap of crypto, and we have a market value in 2030 of 25 trillion.
What's Ark's Ether price target?
Yeah, maybe I can talk a bit more generally about the ETH thesis than the price target. We've seen a lot of institutions now, Robinhood and many others, build on Ethereum. And so if you look at, we think the biggest trends and in the next 5 years, tokenization, RWAs, stablecoin, and DeFi in general, Ethereum is still very much the leader. You have about 120 billion of total value locked, which is really a value that are locked on smart contracts on Ethereum and layer twos. More than 100 billion in stable coins on Ethereum out of a total of 280, more or less. And so we really think DeFi and a lot of these trends are being built on Ethereum and its layer twos. It definitely has, liquidity liquidity moats. A lot of the DeFi apps, Aave and others are really, at least an order of magnitude bigger than on other ones. And we do think they're, very interesting opportunities. We think Solana is going to be very interesting as well. But if you look at, Ether, the asset, we think it's, a very unique asset. It's yield bearing, so it's a revenue generating asset. We'll publish more research on that, right? Because as an ETH holder, if you stake, you get yield that comes from the fees that users on paying on chain. So it's revenue generating. Ethereum is used also as collateral in DeFi. If you look at the number one collateral in DeFi and layer twos, it's Ethereum. So putting Ethereum as collateral, taking stable coins as debt. And then it's also a medium of exchange, right? I think less popular now probably, but if you look at NFT marketplaces and paying fees really on Ethereum, paying for transactions, you need Ethereum, right? You need to pay for those fees with the Ether token. And so looking for in the next 5 years, we think the roadmap of scaling the layer one and the layer twos, which I think a lot of the teams are focused on that. If you look at Base and other chains, I think will allow for more users to come on chain. And so, yeah, again, I think we were eager to publish more research and be more specific on the Ethereum price target. But to give you an idea right now, Ethereum is about 13% of the total market cap of crypto, counting everything. And we have a market value in 2030 of 25 trillion. And so that gives you a bit of an idea, I think, of the expected final Ethereum market cap in 2030. But again, stay tuned for more research on that.
My name is Aaron at Altcoin Daily. Subscribe to the channel. See you tomorrow.